So last week, France suffered a horrific terror attack. In this attack, 129 people were killed, hundreds injured, when several groups of armed terrorist fighters staged attacks against a concert, the Stade de France, and at least two different restaurants. So this was a terrible attack. This was horrific. This had people wielding automatic weapons, AK-47s. There were a couple of bombs that went off. A suicide bomber was caught. Terrible, terrible, terrible thing, right? Now, ISIS has claimed responsibility for the attacks, of course, and so France has started taking a larger role in bombing ISIS targets in Syria, right? So that's sort of the response. Now, at home, in France, well, things are also taking a darker turn. According to the New York Times, the police are empowered to conduct raids without a search warrant. And according to Bernard, I can't really say his name, Cazeneuve, the interior minister, said 168 such raids without warrants had taken place in 19 French departments, including the Paris region and Lille, Lyon, Marseille, and Toulouse. French names are going to kill me, man. The police arrested 23 people and confiscated 19 weapons, including 19 handguns, 8 long guns, 4 heavy weapons, as well as computer hardware, mobile phones, and narcotics. Another 104 people were placed under house arrest. Now, the narcotics thing is interesting. ISIS, I thought they were against drugs. You might have to fact check me on that, but I'm assuming that radical fundamentalist Muslims, part of that fundamentalism is against drugs. I mean, they're against alcohol, after all, right? You can't drink if you're a Muslim. So it's strange they would find narcotics or mention it in this article. But nonetheless, there's some of the results of some of the police action. They also closed their borders in France, and they're calling for French President Francois Hollande is calling for a 3-month extension of the state of emergency in France. Now, French authorities have also identified a Belgian national as the mastermind for the attack. Oh, wait a minute. Belgian national. According to the Daily Beast, a number of arrests have actually been made in a Brussels neighborhood where 3 of the 8 Paris attackers are believed to have been from. So that's interesting, right? They added that Belgium has long been considered Europe's weak link in the fight against terrorism, noting that the country has supplied ISIS with more fighters as a share of the population than any other European nation. About 40 per 1 million residents. Belgium. Not only is this guy from Belgium, he's also a French national, meaning he didn't come from the Middle East. He didn't come from Syria originally to set up these attacks. Now, some of these attackers did go to Syria and then come back to do the attacks, and I'll get to that later. But this guy grew up in Belgium and was a French citizen. That's crazy. And at least one of the attackers was a French citizen. Huh. Now, as they note, some of which had actually already been to Syria, and at least one of them had used a doctored passport from Syria and may have came in with a group of refugees. So upon learning this information, you're going to see a lot more scrutiny of refugees. Now, I understand that, that's going to be a bit of a problem when it comes to, because searching refugees, now you're going to have more hatred against refugees, which they've already had, right? One of these attackers snuck in. Now, I understand the need for increased border security when it comes to, screening refugees. I get that, right? But you can't screen them all, and you can't always screen them effectively. So as I said, that's going to lead to some issues, and that's, of course, going to lead to some hatred against the immigrants. Even more hatred than there already has been. And trust me, there's been a lot. Now, according to CNN, one of the 3 bombers who detonated themselves at the Stade de France late Friday arrived in the Greek island of Leros on October 3rd among numerous Syrian refugees, right? So an unnamed French senator who was briefed by the Ministry of Interior told CNN's Christine Amanpour that the man was carrying a fake or doctored Syrian passport and also a registration document for refugee status issued by Greek authorities. The fingerprints taken by Greek authorities matched those of the terrorist who blew himself up at the Stade de France, the senator had said. So, here's the situation, right? A lot of these attackers were Western born, became radicalized, left for Syria, and then came back. And actually had came back and stayed in Belgium. Well, Belgium isn't exactly a terrorist hotbed of activity. But it seems like they are, as I mentioned, the weakest link in the fight against terrorism, as a lot of Belgians leave to join ISIS. That's really strange. And of course, as I said, these are young people that had become radicalized by ISIS and had left Europe to go and fight for them. Now, who would want to, and why would someone want to fight for ISIS? I have no idea. That seems about the most, unappealing thing, right? Radical, like just very, very radical, very fundamentalist religion has no appeal to me. Now, I guess to some people they are. One has to wonder, what is it that's making these younger people, because a lot of them are in their 20s, early 20s, mid 20s, that are part of these attacks. What's making these young people leave Western Europe to go fight for ISIS? And that's the question here. And going forward, that's going to be my question. Because maybe if we can figure out the answer to that, maybe it means we can put a stop to it. And if we can put a stop to people going over and fighting for ISIS, maybe we can prevent some of these attacks going forward in the future. Maybe I'm naive, but I think it's worth a shot.